Hi Bjorn, I'm going to give you some feedback on your last assignment 4. I'm going to be talking about the different phases of writing, in particular editing. There's a video, if you go to the Plan for English, there's a link for a video called The Phases of Writing. That goes through all of them in very sort of brief, in a brief way. The editing phase is in many ways the most important phase, because this is where you turn your draft into the final product. And you organize your text so that it makes sense to the reader, and you make sure that there's enough information for the reader to fully understand the overall message and the arguments that you are conveying in the text. So it's a very important phase, and the reason why I'm talking about this is where you all seem to be missing a few tricks. So if I begin at the beginning, you need to introduce your text. I believe I've said this before, and probably I said this to you as well in the first video. Introduce the text as a text. Okay? You do have subheadings, so you do have some orientation, kind of overt orientation of your text to the reader, so that there is a guide we can follow through the text. So that's good. Just add an introduction so that we know what the hell is going to happen in the text. So that's in the beginning. In terms of the editing of the actual text that you have here, sometimes there is not enough information for the reader. You kind of assume knowledge that isn't there, and that you can't assume of the reader. And some transitions, for instance, transitions between part 1 and 2 is almost not there, and it's kind of made even worse by the lack of information. There are a couple of places where you're a bit vague. Like, for instance, we're talking about you're talking about someone has to do the dirty work. That's not very specific. What exactly do you mean by that? So when you use kind of, we would call that a euphemism, something that's kind of describes what you're trying to say, but doesn't say it directly for some reason. And if we have to guess what you're talking about, that means that there's information lacking in the text that we then have to put into it, and that makes the text less precise. Sometimes it's okay to do this if it's obvious what we're talking about, but in this case I don't think it is. So I'd like you to go back and look at it and see if you can make your text a little bit more precise in that part of the text. The transition between part 1 and 2 in particular is important, I think. We also see some places where the topic sentence in the paragraph is divided from the support and the elaboration. So keep in mind that each paragraph needs a topic sentence plus support and/or elaboration. In general, I think there is good coherence in your text. And some of the paragraphs, even though they seem fragmented, some of the paragraphs do work. And there is, in spite of the fragmentation, a logic going through the text. So it's not to do with your conceptualization of the message or the text as a whole, but your organization of it. And it's also to do with layout and, again, thinking of your reader. So the draft is good. The editing needs work, is what I'm saying. Okay, so introduce your text. Keep using subheadlines. They work very well. Keep focus on paragraph organization, and look at this in the editing phase. When you do your draft and your conceptualization and you have all your ideas that you need to get out, it's fine not to think about those things, but in the editing phase you need to go back and look at this. And also be specific in your wording. Make sure that there's enough information for the reader to understand your message completely. In terms of grammatical issues, there's one thing I'd like you to keep in mind, which is subject-verb agreement. Look for that once you do your final proofreading, which you do as the last phase, is proofreading. Keep in mind that when we talk about comprehensive approach, we tend to not use a the or an a or a in front of it when we speak kind of military language. For this type of text, you need a the, a specific an article the or the article a in front of it. So it's the comprehensive approach, a comprehensive approach, not just comprehensive approach. Yes. I think that is all I've got to say for the time being. So keep in mind the editing phase, that's where you really can improve your text, and then look for subject-verb agreement once you do your proofreading. Okay, that's it for me. Bye.